these four horsemen of the apocalypse are things that can hinder your growth, shall we say. So what they are is basically the fact that in future climates, you're going to get droughts, and the climate's going to change, which will encourage or allow different pests and, shall we say, diseases, and especially tree diseases, to come into this country and destroy what you are starting to grow. And the final horseman is wind, if we get more wind in the future. So if I go through those, the first one was drought. Obviously, when you have drought, different tree species will be favored, and also for the perennial biocrops. So if I take perennial biocrops first, basically if you use the grass type biocrops like miscanthus, they work very well in droughty conditions. So they are actually more favored towards the east of the country, which is drier. And also, as climate changes, as they are C4 plants and they are originating from tropical climates, there are a lot of different varieties and genotypes of miscanthus, for example, which will grow almost anywhere under any conditions that we can find in our models. Willow, on the other hand, needs a lot of water, and you get very good yields with a lot when you have places with a lot of water. So it's the place it works the best is on the west, obviously, with the prevailing wind and the rain coming off the Atlantic. But as it gets warmer with warming climate, it will become less able to grow in the south. Now, if we take trees, that's a very interesting problem, because a tree that you plant today, if you have, say, the RCP 6 or 8.5, where you're getting 3 or 4 degrees of increase in temperature, the climate's changing faster than the trees can adapt. So if you plant, say, oak in Sussex now, it may not be able to grow by 2080, or it will die off, simply because it'll be too dry. So in planning what you're going to plant today, you really have to consider what the climate's going to be 2080, where the tree is at its full growth. And of course, that's a bit like looking into a crystal ball, because we don't know what the climate is going to be. It's unknowable, because we don't know what everybody else in the rest of the world is going to do. Even if we get to net zero in the UK, if China doesn't really hold back on emissions and we go screaming along the RCP 8 plant, then we really have to plant trees for a 3 or 4 degree increase in temperature and the associated changes in rainfall. So it's something that needs to be considered. And obviously, in our models, we've modeled the outcome of many different climate scenarios to look at which trees are better now and which trees are better in the future. So that needs to be considered. But also the other thing that's also an unknowable unknown is how because climate affects tree diseases and pests. And typical examples of that we've had in this country are, the pine bark beetle, we've had ash dieback, and so on. And Dutch elm disease that have come to this country and attacked trees that are in this country. So again, you have to think about those potential and any other potential pest or disease that you might encounter with the tree species that you plant. And so that kind of favors planting a mixture of trees. The last thing that is very important. And it actually came to light very much so during the project, because we had several very large windstorms in the early days of the project. And there was one particular eddy covariance tower in a forest in Harwood in Northumberland, basically, that we were going to use, and it had data from, I think, the last 20 years. And that stand of Sitka spruce was completely destroyed by Alwyn. And at the time, we did some work looking at the impact of Storm Alwyn and found basically that about 10 to 20% of the trees in Scotland and northern England were actually destroyed by that storm. So we have done a lot of work now. We focused on what the potential wind speeds are going to be in the future based on the climate scenarios, to look at how dangerous it will be for, planting trees in the future. Because obviously when they're young, they don't fall over, but as soon as they get to a certain height, either they get snapped or they will be uprooted.